hand over any goods we find suspicious, any we're not too sure of. We'll always call in the authorities in this country who are actually present in the facility. And from there, they are able to open it up and find out. All I can say at this particular point is that for sure, we did find that, but we have continued to work in close collaboration.
Thanks for that clarification. We want to pause this conversation for a short while, because from that update, let's come to our conversation where we were discussing the growth of the logistics and the courier business in Africa, and we were hosting in studio with us Andrew Mutuma, country manager for DHL. Before we took that pause to listen in on what's happening at IBC, of course, DHL has been trying to expand its distribution network to serve more clients and to actually put the business in a position where they can be able to tap to the growing needs across the counties. Maybe give us your views around how the company has been doing when it comes to taking on the distribution networks.
Okay. Currently, we are in Kisumu, Nakuru, Nairobi, as well as Mombasa. Those are the key towns where we are at. However, the country has been growing in as far as the 47 counties are concerned, and we are trying to link all those counties towards ensuring that we get all their goods and services at the airport. Now, how are we going about that? One of the ways we've done that is engaged partners who are already within these particular areas. We are not good at domestic, and not necessarily so, but you have too many organizations in this country who sit in domestic courier business. What we have chosen to do is focus primarily on international growth. And for us to do that, we need to then be able to rely on a few partners. So yes, we are actually in the process of enlisting some of our key partners who we have worked with for a couple of years to ensure that they become our agents within these particular counties. That should enable us to ensure that we get goods overnight, and transit time should not be affected in terms of ensuring that they're able to get into their international locations, whatever that is supposed to be.
And the other issue coming out of the courier business, we've seen insecurity has sort of played a part to affecting how the business is carried out in some countries. A few, Somalia, we've seen South Sudan, incidents around those countries. Perhaps as a company, have you been affected in your operations around those countries?
Let's say Kenya is a hub for East Africa as a whole. As a result of that, we've invested close to 200 million Kenya shillings within the last 1 year at our airport facility, just to ensure that we're able to move goods a lot faster. To do that, it just simply means we're able to get a lot of goods from Somalia, Sudan, but that means we've got to be very vigilant in terms of what we're able to pick out. So we've also invested heavily in security materials, considering that we have scanners in all countries in the world. And in Africa particularly, we have scanners that ensure that we check the goods. We have stringent measures in terms of how do we look at goods before we even pick them from a customer. So it is global standardized operating, what we call a global standard operating platform, which is very clear in terms of the processes we must follow. They are not, Africa is not exempt. We remain part of the global world. And as a result, we have to make sure that some of the issues that have come up as a result of insecurity, brought about by terrorism, or any acts of anyone being mischievous in terms of making sure, like for instance, you ship ivory, gold, that we are able to detect that as quickly as possible, which brings me back to the incident that happened at the airport. That is how we're able to detect and make sure things like those do not pass through the network.
Perhaps moving forward, what are some of the growth areas that you foresee for the company?
I think one, definitely, I actually am looking forward. As an individual, I'm looking forward to the SGR. So we actually have visibility throughout, which gives us great advantage as far as our customers are concerned. So I think in that breath, looking at it from the investments in infrastructure, I think also the infrastructure as far as roads are concerned. Last year alone, with brought in new VW vehicles, about 18 new VW vehicles. And we've done that simply because of the sort of infrastructure that we have in the country now.
Yeah.
And we actually believe that that should allow us to be able to move those cars without too much damage. So the significant investment the government is actually making has considerably eased the opportunities for us to be able to move around and make our business more effective and efficient.
And the other issue around is the issue of how the counties have been trying to respond to the level of competition. As you did mention, we are seeing a number of companies trying to jostle for that market. How do you stay on top of your game?
The key thing is to always ensure that you meet the efficiencies and the promise to the customer. The idea is to ensure great service quality to the customer and they feel appreciated, but mostly just in terms of the delivery. So we are still looking at different counties, seeing which are some of the strategic counties we can be at and ensure we work with them. But ideally, the customer doesn't care about anything else other than getting their goods wherever they need to get to in an international location on time. And because of that, we are then looking at the different counties which have airports, places like Lamu, which have been out of reach for a very long time.
Yeah.
I know we spent some time last year with Governor Timami, just in a discussion of what we can possibly do in a place like Lamu to ensure that even the enhancement of tourism, that those customers out there can still be reached in terms of getting their goods to international locations. So there's a lot happening in the background to bring a lot of our counties to a place where they don't just focus on the domestic part of their business, but they also focus on the international business.
And still keeping it with the competition element, I do understand you've made substantial investments of about 1.8 billion shillings. If you could break this down for us, in what areas are we likely to see DHL pumping this particular funds?
I think one thing a lot of people don't know is that we actually have 2 airplanes which have been moving around the region. I think we scaled that down simply because the airport was not running at optimum when they closed the runway. But the other thing we did was to put up a state-of-the-art facility at the airport. And basically it's material handling equipment. And rather than get to the manual process where the vehicles would park and drivers and our crew to get the goods manually out of the vehicle, fuel is a significant cost in our business, particularly because you have the vehicles that we need to run, and also the fact that we use airlines to be able to move around. They will charge us a levy for the fuel that they have. So because of that, anytime the fuel prices go down, I think it's not foreign to say we are quite excited in terms of just trying to ensure that we reduce our costs. Of course, there are 2 aspects of business. You either enhance your revenues or you decrease your costs. But you can only decrease your costs so far before they start hurting the business. So the key focus is really on enhancing the revenue base to ensure you cover your cost base.
Well, many thanks, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
The country manager for DHL Express, giving us the latest insights around what's been defining the courier business as well as the logistics business in Kenya. And he is quite optimistic that there'll be a good turnaround come the end of the year, as well as multiple projects we are seeing being put up by the government when it comes to addressing the infrastructure deficits. Well, my name is Abi Agina, and that's all the time we had for here on KTN Business today. Let's keep the conversation alive on our social media. You can tweet us at KTN Business, at KTN News, or my Twitter handle at Agina Abi. Coming up next is the News Hour, where we'll be giving you the latest updates regarding the IEBC trying to put out the record straight regarding the Kericho by-election. All that coming up shortly on News Hour.